Welcome to my business, the Wilton Street Craft Co. I'm Emma and I run my business along with Lady, my miniature sausage dog. I create handmade scented candles suitable for vegans. I create a natural product by blending essential oils myself to create all the scents. I use soy wax and cotton wicks. I've aligned myself to the principles of high quality, ethically sourced ingredients and being environmentally aware. I sell my candles predominantly online and at markets and have a few stockists. At the moment, I am the everything in my business. I'm the marketing manager, the finance director, the IT help desk, the intern making the tea, and the boss. I set up the Wilton Street Craft Co in the back end of 2015. So what were my experiences of setting up my own business? Well, if I'm completely honest, I don't actually remember a lot of the beginning of my business. What I do know is that I had suffered from a really severe bout of depression, and I knew that returning to my work as a doctor wasn't going to keep me well, and that I needed something else, something with more flexibility. At that time, I was finding being creative really helpful to my depression, and friends and family had started to ask to buy some of the things I'd been making, and then later on friends of friends had started buying things as well. So I thought about giving it a go, trying to sell to people who didn't know me, who didn't feel they had to buy from me, and setting up my craft business. I remember my first market that I went to. It was in November 2015, and I'd gone along with some cushions, some hand-stitched Christmas decorations and some lampshades. At that market, I got my first commission. It was for some cushions, and I remember thinking, can I actually do this? Does this person know that I'm not a professional cushion maker or whatever? But they really liked what I was doing. They were very willing to pay money for it, and I took their order details and just felt hugely freaked out that someone was wanting to pay for something that I'd made. I then added candles to what I was making and selling. Originally, I was pouring candles into vintage glassware and then selling those alongside the textile items. Looking back, it was a little bit of a sort of scattergun approach of what I was selling, but it was working at the time, and I was still finding my feet very much. So in early 2016, I became a real business. I became official and registered with Companies House and told the taxman what I was doing. And I continued much as I had been before for probably about the next 8 months or so, until I started to change what I was selling. I'd looked at the bottom line and realised that the cushions and the textiles and the way I was selling the candles wasn't going to be financially viable. But the candles were selling well. So it was then that I made the decision to proactively quit. Stopped everything that I had previously been doing and decided to rethink and rejig the business. Because the candles were selling well, I wanted to continue making them, but I also needed to have time to devote to all the other things that I needed to do to run a successful business, such as the marketing, product research, the admin, basically the less fun and less glamorous things. It's always easy to want to keep making products, but it's a bit harder to find the motivation to do the paperwork and the boring day-to-day stuff that keeps it going. So once I decided to focus solely on the candles, I also changed how they looked and what they were like as a product. Kept my belief systems and my values in a natural product and environmentally conscious product, but I changed them from the vintage glassware into the jar candle that you see today, mainly because the vintage glassware was, it was very ad hoc, it was very changeable, there wasn't really much cohesion as a product range, and I realised that it was so variable in price and availability that it was going to make it nigh on impossible for me to be stocked in shops and get regular sort of wholesale trade. So yeah, that's how I came to move towards the jar candle. Since I made those changes, I've had quite a steady trajectory, increased sales with some seasonal peaks, and I've got a much better feel for the way my business works now. But it hasn't been easy, neither does it continue to be easy. And just as I feel as I've got to grips with something and I've nailed something else will come along and test me and make me feel like I've gone back to square one, even though I haven't. And honestly, I have never cried so much as having my own business. Basically, I've cried because I've been exhausted doing so many markets back to back. I have cried because my bloody website just won't do the thing I want it to do. I cried submitting my first tax return because despite making a small loss in my first year of business as expected, I somehow thought that I was going to have to pay thousands in tax that I didn't have. But I submitted it and it was fine, and the second one's always easier. I even cry when things go well. So I got really overwhelmed when I launched a new product last year and it did well and it sold out. So yeah, basically, to use a cliche, it's an emotional roller coaster. So I thought I'd share with you some of the things that I've learned along the way, some of the words of wisdom. And I don't think that these just apply to having a business. I think they're applicable to quite a few different areas of your life. So the first one, have critical friends. It's a piece of advice that I was given when I first started. You don't want the friends or the family who will tell you that everything you do is amazing. Have friends who you can trust, who are honest with you, and whose opinion that you value. And I've found my critical friends in all sorts of areas. Some of my existing friends, people that I've been stall buddies with at markets, and our businesses have sort of grown along the same rate and along the same lines. Also people that I've met at local business networking groups, other women in business, and from me just generally being receptive to meeting new people, because sometimes the best mentors aren't where I'd have expected to find them. Second piece of advice, everything takes a lot longer than you think it will. When you've got a million ideas or lots of things on your to-do list, it's not necessarily what you want to hear, but it's true. And being realistic with your time will give you a greater sense of achievement, and a greater sense of accomplishment when you do the task in hand, and you'll do a much better job of it because you're focused and being realistic with your time. This one's my favourite. Don't compare your beginnings to somebody else's middle. You can waste so much time and energy looking at everyone else around you and feeling that you're not there, but that's because you're not there yet. You can't be everything to everyone all of the time. Find your niche and run with it. And as soon as I focused more on my candles and found the way that I wanted to sell them and found my niche, everything got a lot easier. And my final sort of word of wisdom and thing I wanted to share is what success looks like can differ completely. So this is one of the things to me that demonstrated success. I keep it on my desk. It is this empty roll of fragile tape. Who'd have thought it? But basically, when I first started selling online, the fragile tape was cheaper than the stickers and it bound the boxes together, and I just thought, yeah, it's worth me trying this. But I didn't ever expect to get to the end of the roll. I mean, it was huge. It was like out here somewhere. And then late last year, in the middle of my busy pre-Christmas rush, I got to the very end of it, and had a little cry. But yeah, I didn't ever think I would have sent that many products, so it was a little bit of a reality check and a wow, yeah, I've done this. So I hope that's given you an insight into me and my business. I love the freedom and the flexibility that working for myself allows. The fact that I can open myself up to opportunities, and that I have a great support network that's behind me and making me feel brave enough to take different opportunities. Which brings me up to where I am today. So I am currently increasing my wholesale stockists. I have just launched some candle making workshops, because basically I love teaching and people are really interested to know and find out about the process that goes on with candle making. And it also keeps me busy out of my peak retail season as well. I'm also planning on bringing my candles to a wider audience, so that more people can smell them, and also that I'm going to try selling in a new setting which is more fashion focused, and to a different demographic of slightly older women. And I'm going to be doing that at one of Gok Wan's fashion brunch events at the Hilton in October. So I'm really excited about that. Get to meet Gok in person. So thanks for the opportunity for me to speak tonight. If anyone has any questions, I'm quite happy for you to drop me a line and get in touch and we can have a chat. I'm really sorry that I couldn't be there. I'm currently on a steam train in North Yorkshire that's being driven by my dad. So hopefully he'll get me back safely and I will see you all at the August meeting. Thanks.